Okay, before I start this video, I'm just gonna say that my setup's like completely different because I'm in a different country, and also if you hear any background noise, it's like my boyfriend because I'm in America to see him. But yeah, my audio might just sound off or different. I get a little bit nervous recording in front of people, so I might sound like different. I'm gonna put my usual disclaimers on screen because if I don't, people will point it out. So yeah, please be kind to me. This video will also include triggering themes, which are displayed on screen, so beware. Okay, now on to the actual video itself. Pastarru is a popular animator in the animation meme community with over 250k subs. They are most known for their animation memes, but also make original content and have a webcomic. Because they kind of hide their age away, I just want to start by saying that they are 22, almost 23. And this is going to be a very important factor to keep in mind because unfortunately this video is going to deal with Pastarru and their inappropriate interactions between them and significantly younger people. I also want to say that there's a pretty well made video about this by Nusa, one of Pastarru's ex-friends. In this video, I'm going to be cross-referencing this with the various documents against Pastarru. I'm also going to be going into Pastarru's response because I noticed a bunch of really poor arguments and also things that concern me. But first, I'm going to go into the allegations. The first allegation I'm going to be going over is Pastarru's encouragement and also engagement in inappropriate conversations happening in their, at the time, 13+ Discord server. I'm going to showcase some of the screenshots of Pastarru engaging in SFW conversations in this server. I'm not going to read the screenshots out loud because they make me uncomfortable. Instead, I'm just going to leave it as a little montage of images. You can pause to read each individual screenshot. Pastarru's inappropriate conversations wouldn't be an issue if the server was 18+, but due to it being 13+ during most of the screenshots, it means that anyone can join in and engage with these conversations, which puts them at risk. Now, a second issue that I want to get into about the server is how Pastarru allowed a predator to roam around in their server, solely because they financially support Pastarru. This predator is 31, and on their Twitter, they interact with fresh 18-year-olds and many other young adults. I don't want this video to be centered around the predator though, and so I'm just gonna put in a bunch of incriminating screenshots in another montage. But to be clear, it's very obvious that this person is a predator, and Pastarru definitely knew that this person was not a good person. Pastarru also admits that they only kept this person around for financial gain, which still is really bad because they endangered younger people for financial gain. Pastarru also completely ignored when people tried to tell them that this predator was a creep, which even if they were only keeping this person around for financial gain, it's still absolutely abhorrent that they sacrificed the safety of their friends who are younger people for money. The creepy behavior from this predator lines up with Nusa's video where they give a testimony of the predator's weird behavior towards them. I'm going to play a snippet from their video of them describing their experience with this person.
Jeffrey is a 31-year-old who joined Pastarru's Discord server a few months before it was deleted. Within this time, Jeffrey has shown to me weird behavior. To be clear, I was 17 when these events I'm going to talk about happened. I was in VC with Jeffrey and Pasta one time when they initially joined the server. Jeffrey turned on their camera and started a tour of their apartment and showcased a lot of suggestive anime posters of anime girls depicted in a rather young way. Jeffrey then opened up a suggestive furry blind bag of some sort, and I knew Pasta was watching the stream because they were actively engaging with Jeffrey opening and showcasing the items. But ignoring all of this, let's say Pasta wasn't actually watching the stream. I reached out to them a few days later explaining how Jeffrey's activity on Twitter, engaging inappropriately with new 18-year-olds and me, and what they did on call made me uncomfortable, and is probably not safe to have them around children. Pasta had this to say: "Block the 31-year-old as the minor interacting with me on an NSFW account. That makes sense, I guess. I explained after in more detail how I felt, and they ghosted me, only to respond to a web phishing code immediately. I guess you have to have your priorities set somewhere.
As well as facilitating a predator in their server, last year Pastarru also made a NSFW sex game for a friend who was 16 or 17 at the time. Pastarru would have been 21 at the time. Even though this person is an older minor, they're still a child and Pastarru is still an adult, and they had a significant age gap of at least 5 years. It also doesn't matter if the game is a joke or not, because going through the effort to make an inappropriate game for someone so much younger than you is weird. In general, Pasta has proved that they are extremely irresponsible when it comes to setting boundaries with minors. Getting into another instance of them being irresponsible around those who are much younger than them, Pastarru deciding to befriend Nusa despite knowing that they're 14 at the time, whilst being 19, is testament to their reckless behavior.
I met them in 2021 and later joined their server on May 24th of the same year. I was freshly 14 years old when I was introduced to them. My birthday is January 14th, and upon joining their server, immediately became a moderator.
Nusa, being a friend of Pastarru's of many years, has also alleged that Pastarru has some pretty concerning viewpoints regarding exposing younger people to NSFW.
Pasta had discussed with me in VC multiple times about how they think 15-year-olds are, quote, old enough to deal with topics of sex. I think there is a major difference of sex being discussed in a biological context and sex being discussed in an explicit context. Most of these conversations were not in a biological context and were in an explicit one instead.
This allegation is especially concerning considering the fact that Pastarru seems to be fine exposing younger people to inappropriate content and completely lines up with their actions. Even if they have no proof for this, I think it's absolutely believable. The allegations against Pastarru has slowly started to surface over the last few months, and since then, Pastarru has made a secret TikTok account where they attempted to pose as a child, and the reason for people believing that they're trying to pose as a child is because they're copying a child's art style, and they also made a sort of set of rules for their account. One of these rules being that they would never mention their age on this account, which is really concerning when you take into account all of their inappropriate interactions with people so much younger than them. Their solution to run away from all of the allegations and to pose as a completely different person really shows their lack of willingness to take accountability for what they've done. According to Nusa's video, Pastarru has a history of making false apologies.
When they first uploaded this apology and statement to their Discord and Tumblr, and I was in VC with them when they did it, they were essentially mocking the situation. They didn't really care that they were getting called out for this. In fact, a lot of the conversation went along the lines of, I don't really care that I'm being called out for this. I just want to get people off of me. And so that's why I posted this apology. They said something along the lines of they knew that, quote, most of this wasn't true, end quote. And then they proceeded to mock the people who originally asked the question on their Tumblr and then the original creator of the document.
The next section I got my boyfriend to cover because I was feeling sleepy at the time, so I just let him record. The next section will be about Joseph, the 12-year-old that Pastarru allegedly stalked. I say allegedly, but Pastarru does admit to this later on. Anyways, onto his segment.
I'm really quickly going to touch on some of the points made in the original call-out document and corresponding video. The creator of the document is a 14-year-old named Joseph who was in contact with Pastarru starting in 2021 when he was 11 and Pastarru was 19. Joseph makes a few allegations in his document that lack context and in some cases are completely redundant, probably due to the fact that this child was hurt greatly by Pastarru's actions and just needs to be heard. I'm going to start with the allegations of copying, harassment, and stalking, which I believe have the most substance of all the topics I'm going to cover here. Joseph joined Pastarru's Discord server in 2021 and posted an AU for Pastarru's story that he created. Pastarru acknowledged and complimented Joseph's work, but later banned him without explanation. Later, it was allegedly said it was for quote-unquote taking heavy inspiration, which Pastarru is uncomfortable with. After banning Joseph, Pastarru took the concept from his AU and passed it off as their own, which they admitted to in their most recent apology. In this situation, it's important to know this for the sake of Pastarru's hypocrisy later on. After Joseph was banned, Pastarru allegedly took measures to find and block him on every platform, which they claimed to be because they thought Joseph was associated with a group they did not like. Joseph was hurt by this, yes, but Pastarru will later go on to downplay more serious allegations to just Joseph being salty about being blocked, so it's worth mentioning. With the stalking situation, it's difficult to determine how Joseph was stalked and for how long, but we do know Pastarru confessed to seeking out the child. Joseph shows various screenshots of private texts allegedly spent by Pastarru, though the messages are cropped in a way where it cannot be confirmed to be them, nor can it be verified to be about Joseph, so take that with what you will. I will show some of these on screen now. We can confirm, however, that Pasta was in contact with Joseph after blocking him from these Instagram and Twitter DMs from 2022. This is all the information about these claims I can gather from the document. The full document is in the description. If Joseph's clear suffering and Pastarru's dodgy confessions are anything to go off of, these claims should be considered. Moving on, I'm going to briefly cover a smaller point Joseph made in his document that he later retracted, but I still believe is worth noting. Pastarru has two OCs named Cerebrum and Rue that they like to ship together. According to Pastarru's website, Cerebrum is 348 years old, while Rue is only 5, which apparently is adult age for their species. The choice to make such a small age an adult for what's supposed to be a human parallel character puts me off a little, and Pastarru later apologizes for making this decision. In addition to the age issue, Pastarru has written about how Cerebrum is an object and an empty shell, and is physically unable to hate, even writing Cerebrum's response to being asked their sexuality as simply, what? In interactions with Rue, Cerebrum is allegedly seen acting numb and limp while Rue takes the lead, all of which imply possible non-consent. Though there's a lack of damning evidence, these creative choices are still questionable to say the least. Finally, I'm going to speak on the two things I found to be the most irrelevant in this document. First, Joseph alleges Pastarru is fatphobic because they claim to have plus-sized characters that they still depict as skinny. This is simply because Pastarru cannot draw plus-sized bodies, and they frankly don't have to. Them choosing to draw skinny characters is not inherently fatphobic. All it does is limit their artistic ability and diversity in their work. Secondly, there was previously an allegation for Pastarru allowing fans on the Russian social media VK to make Nazi edits of their characters. This part was later removed because Pastarru had nothing to do with the actions of these fans, and the suggestion that they supported it is completely false, which Joseph apologizes for. I felt like this was worth adding because some people still bring up this allegation despite it being debunked. All in all, Joseph's document does lack a lot of context and evidence and has quite a bit of bias, but he cannot be blamed for this as he's only 14 and obviously this situation has put a lot of mental strain on him. He still makes important points, so don't let the parts that are lacking water down the seriousness of Pastarru's behavior. With that in mind, Shiester will go over Pastarru's final apology and goodbye to the internet.
After the Newstar's video released, Pastarru quickly uploaded a document which seems to be a script for a video that they were planning to make addressing the allegations. In this apology script thing, they immediately admit to stalking the at the time 11/12-year-old. They also admit to deleting all their socials to kind of run away from everything, and also acknowledge the fact that that deleted a lot of proof that the victims would have had. At the start of the document, Pastor doesn't make many excuses for their actions, they just kind of apologize. But later on in the document, they begin to sort of backpedal a bit and start using things like autism and asexuality as an excuse for why they talked around children in this way. Pastarru also admits to inaccurately describing themselves as immature for their age. I'm going to go on a little side tangent about this because it's something I've noticed a lot of people claim when confronted with things. If you're able to acknowledge that you are immature for your age, it's likely that you are not mentally stunted. And the actual reason for you repeating your mistakes is because you are unwilling to change as a person, not because you're mentally handicapped. I have been around people who are genuinely mentally stunted and they are completely unaware that they are mentally behind. The right term that people are looking for is simply being spiritually younger. And you can honor your young spirit by engaging in interests that you were into as a kid, not by talking inappropriately to minors. I see so many people use this as an excuse to have friends who are a lot younger than them, and I think it's honestly a horrible excuse. Pastarru infantilizes himself, bringing up their autism as a reason for why they don't understand sex, and not being able to process sex like a normal person doesn't take away your capability to filter yourself and realize when something is wrong. And even if it somehow did, when people told you that this was wrong, you still continued. So it honestly just shows that you are unwilling to change. No one can trust your apology because you've already apologized before and then continue to do the same things over and over. Your apologies mean nothing because you have a history of going back on yourself and running away from accountability. And you say you're going to quit the internet, but I highly doubt that. I think you're just going to run away to a new account under a new name where you never mention your age like you planned to do before. And honestly, it's kind of scary. It's scary to know that there's adults like you out there pretending to be children in a community like this. And it seems that you finally admit that you can't keep yourself accountable, which is great, but it more so seems like you don't want to keep yourself accountable, which is why you're running away. To conclude this video, I think it's undeniable that Pastarru is a pretty malicious person. Their unwillingness to change and to constantly relapse back into the same behaviors that they sworn to change from really indicates a lack of willingness to change. And honestly, the fact that they're running away from everything is a lesson that you should really be careful with who you are speaking to on the internet. I don't mean to be like all internet safety, but it's true that some people are deceptive and not who you think they are. I'm glad Pastarru is receiving the scrutiny that they deserve, but it seems like they're just going to continue to be a danger just under a new name, which is unfortunate, but there's not really much we can do about that, unfortunately. Anyways, bye!